always been unpopular in school, and now I've discovered the reason. They dislike me not because I do things badly, but because I do them well. They dislike me because I've always had the best grades in the class. I don't even have to study. I always get A's. Do you suppose I should try to get D's for a change and become the most popular girl in school? In response, her friend slaps her in the face. The McCain camp tends to believe, from my perspective, that voters lack intelligence, and this is obvious in the way that they try to persuade us not with facts, not with solutions or hard judgment, but with little tricks like the folksy persona that they've coached Palin to present. And you know, I tell you, she winked at the camera so many times during that debate. I was thinking, are we all going to get to make out with her afterwards? Is that what's going on? Because that would be an angry, passionate encounter. Now, for this faux folksyism, they trade in genuine, intelligent thinking. Now, I, like the majority of Americans, was very, very impressed with Barack Obama's performance at the presidential debate. In contrast to what I kept hearing from McCain, which was the repeated statement, we need to cut spending, we need to cut spending, with no real indication of how that was supposed to be accomplished. Now, Obama's critics said of him in the debate that he came off like a know-it-all. Now, I don't know about you, but I want my president to know it all. Basically the equivalent of Obama's critics calling him a nerd. Now, I do think that Americans are tired of people like George Bush and John McCain taking advantage of them financially because they think they're stupid. Americans are not stupid. I know stupid. I created Family Guy. Television. Thanks, buddy. Increasingly, it's considered negative and almost un-American to be intelligent. If you're compassionate and open-minded, you're negatively branded a liberal. That word is deemed a negative here in the land of liberty, which is very odd to me. You know, you hear Bill O'Reilly on a regular basis referring to those pinheads at Harvard. John McCain has his mind on other things, like making the rich richer. Like making guys like me richer, which I don't need. Thank you very much. I don't need any more money. In the 1950s, his economic policies made sense. In the 50s, if you owned the local drugstore, you owned the local grocery store in your town, you were one of the wealthy people. You were one of the rich people in town. If you owned the local laundromat, you were one of the wealthy people. It made sense to vote for economic policies like what John McCain is proposing. Nowadays, decades later, what has happened is exactly what people like Mark Twain and H.G. Wells predicted. Everything's gone like this. So you have the very, very rich controlling half the wealth, the 1% of the wealthiest people in this country controlling half the wealth. The other 99% control the other half. That's a huge imbalance, and the middle class is vanishing. And John McCain wants to give the 1% the tax break. That to me is crazy. We don't need it. We don't need it. All of us get richer under George Bush. We don't need any more of that. Now, Barack has a better idea. And by the way, this is what they call trickle-down economics, and I'm sure many of you have read about that. Started in the 80s under Reagan, and the idea is that if you give the rich a tax break, make them richer, then it'll trickle down to the rest of the economy, and everyone benefits. Now, what they aren't taking into account is the psychology of what happens when you get a lot of money. You start to get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and you start to be extra cautious about preserving that at all costs. And it's a thing that you sort of have to fight. So that means that even if the rich get a tax break, if the rest of the economy is in the toilet, they're still going to hold on to that money because it's cold out there. So that policy just doesn't work. Now, Barack's idea is to strengthen our economy and our country from the opposite direction. Obama will provide a tax cut to 95% of working families, invest in alternative energy sources that will create 5 million new jobs here at home, and obviously you guys have the only full-powered wind farm here in right here in Ohio, which is a very big deal. Something to be very, very proud of. That is the future right there. it's economically responsible. If you know, by helping our environment at the same time